Welcome, everyone. Are you overwhelmed or even just curious as to what or how you should name your YouTube channel, business, product, service, offer, or anything else? Then stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Alan, and on this channel, we talk all things sales funnels and digital marketing. Now, contrary to popular belief, choosing a name for your channel, business, or whatever is absolutely not the first step to take. Now, if you've spent hours or days thinking up a name like most new entrepreneurs do, but you don't yet have any sales, any customers, any clients, a quality product, a reliable supplier, then all of those things should take the priority. However, if you are ready to choose a name, then it's easy to become overwhelmed or confused at all the options available to you. Do you name it after yourself? Do you make up a word? Do you try to be clever or funny? Now, some people will tell you that the name of a business or product doesn't matter at all. And to be fair, sometimes it doesn't. On the other hand, some people have made entire careers and have written successful books and have started thriving consulting practices just from the art and science of naming things alone. Now, there are no hard rules and there are exceptions to every suggestion and rule that we're going to talk about today, but in any case, let's jump right in and take a look at 10 ways that you can name your YouTube channel, business, product, or anything else. Now, before we look at ways that you can name your business, we'll just stick with business. Let's take a look at what you definitely shouldn't do. So for one, you should ignore all trends. Now, in the moment when trends are hot, it is extremely easy to get caught up in the moment and to think that naming your business or product after that trendy new song or app or music video or thing that's in the news or whatever, that might seem like a good idea. However, as you probably know with trends, is that not only do they die hard, which means that if your business or product is stuck with a name from a trend that has come and gone, not only will people not understand what you're talking about, but if they do, then they will think of you as old-fashioned and out of touch. And the second thing to avoid when choosing a name is piggybacking, which pretty much means semi-copying somebody else's idea. So for example, there's Burger King. Imagine you wanted to start a burger place and thought you'd be clever and name it Burger Queen. For starters, no one is going to think that that's clever or funny or cute or for any other reason give you their money. But on the other hand, you may have a lawsuit on your hands. And even if you win that case, you still had to deal with the lawsuit, the money to pay for it, the headache, the bad PR. So overall, there are a million reasons to avoid using trends and piggybacking when choosing a name. As for how you can name your business, the first naming strategy is wordplay. Now, there are a lot of ways to do this, so if you'll allow me to take you back to middle school for a second, we'll take a look at a few here. So let's start with alliterations. Now, this pretty much means using a phrase or even just a single word where you use the same sound over and over. So for example, Roto-Rooter uses R's, or even Samsung. Even though that's only one word, it uses the same sound over and over, which makes it a little bit more memorable and catchy. On top of that, there are also rhymes, such as smart cart. Now, that's kind of a basic example, but it has all the same benefits that it's catchy and overall memorable. You can also use portmanteaus, which is where you kind of chop a piece off of two words and put them together. So for example, breakfast and lunch are brunch, or Groupon, I think they still exist, is group and coupon put together. There's also FedEx, which is a combination of Federal Express. So all of these are portmanteaus or ways to merge two words together. Now, we don't have time to talk about all the ways to incorporate wordplay, but there's also acronyms, homonyms, and a bunch of other words you haven't heard since middle school or high school. But in any case, all of these are great ways or great ideas to think of when choosing a name. Our next tactic is to consider your audience, as always. So for example, if you're in the B2B space, which means you are selling directly to businesses, then you probably want to pick a safer, clearer, more direct name where they know exactly what you're talking about and you don't sound too crazy or clever or creative. But on the other hand, if you are marketing or selling directly to customers, then you do have a little bit more leeway to try to be clever or funny or to make up a word. And just generally, you have overall more leeway. Now, if you are aiming directly at customers, you can also, or you should also, consider their demographics. So for example, their age, their generation, their gender, their politics, all of these things matter. Because depending on what the name is of your product or business or channel or whatever, that is going to identify a specific market, whether we like it or not. And in some ways, it's more of an opportunity than a hindrance, so just keep all that in mind. The next naming strategy are word twists, which are a little bit different than word play, which we just mentioned. So for starters, you can simply add an extra letter to a word. So for example, there's the website Fiverr, which takes the word Fiverr, which was kind of a word, and pretty much just adds an extra R. My computer has something on it called Max Audio, where there's two X's. So those are kind of simple examples, but the point is you could just add an extra letter to a word. You could also use intentional misspellings. So I know they just went bankrupt, but a good example of this is Toys R Us. They spelled the R as just the letter R, which made it a little bit catchier, and generally, actually, it did speak to their audience as well, which is as kids generally have trouble spelling. And one last way to twist words is by mashing them. So this pretty much means taking two words and just putting them together. So for example, Facebook or Snapchat or MacBook. Pretty much any of these words or any of these products or brands just took two words and put them together. So all of these are also great ways to think of names. Another tactic to keep in mind is to keep it short for many reasons, but the most obvious are that short names or short words are generally more memorable, they are more pronounceable, they are easier to spell, you could have a shorter domain name, which is your website name. All of these are benefits of shorter names. Now, if you have a long name and just can't get rid of it, then a few strategies you could also use are number one, using a digit of a number instead of spelling the whole thing out, of course, or you could also use acronyms, which we just mentioned, which is pretty much just taking the first letter of each word and putting them together. For example, KFC for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now, if you are using acronyms or just one letter of each word or something like that, it will take a little bit more branding and marketing for your audience to know what you're talking about and to recognize it when they see those letters. But it can be useful to shorten a long name. What's the name of your channel or business or product? Let me know in the comments below, as well as how you chose that name. The next naming strategy is with direct benefits and purpose. So this is where you tell them exactly what you do or the promise that you promise right in your name. So for example, the rug doctor. It pretty much tells them exactly what they are getting. There's also Play It Again Sports, which I'm not sure if they still exist, but it was a great name. So this was a used or secondhand sports equipment store, and they tell you right what they do in their name. Play It Again Sports. Now, incorporating your benefits and purpose right into your name actually kills two birds with one stone, because if somebody hears it, you are communicating your marketing and your name with just one title. Your next option is to simply claim a word. So for example, some that you're probably already familiar with are Apple, Tide, Crest. Now, these are some very popular examples that kind of, well, maybe except Crest. All of these kind of have nothing to do with what they actually sell. Now, they'll tell you that it has some kind of meaning, but really, if somebody hears these words, that if an alien comes to Earth and just hears these words, they will have no idea what these businesses sell. Now, this is the trade-off with this strategy, that the positives are that there are a million words to choose from, of course, but the negative is that you will need to do some extra branding and marketing so that your audience can come to identify what your brand means, that you specifically claim that word, what kind of quality and value you stand for, and so forth. Now, you probably also want to keep in mind, at least consider your logo. So if you are going to pick Apple, Chili's, banana, or anything like that, you just generally might want to consider which color are you going for? What message are you trying to send? Now, is your logo the most important thing in the world? Not necessarily, but it is something to consider. And of course, you could always claim a phrase or a pair of words, such as new era or banana boat or any other pair like that. Your next naming option is to simply make up a word. Now, some examples you may be familiar with are Xerox or Velcro or even Twitter. Now, these words may have had some kind of origin, but these were practically invented words. Now, this kind of has the same issue as choosing a random word, which is that you're going to really need to incorporate a decent amount of marketing and branding so that your audience connects that word with you, but there are advantages as well, such as the domain is probably available, the website name, and it is pretty much a blank canvas that you can do anything with that name and brand. A few guidelines if you are going to make up a word, by the way, though, is that you probably do want to stick with it being short and pronounceable and spellable. Because if people are going to Google you so that they can give you their money or buy from you or whatever, then you want to be findable, of course, in the App Store or on Google or on YouTube or wherever. Your next option is by basing it on the founder or origin. Now, this pretty much means on a person, which could even be a mascot. So some examples could be McDonald's, Bayer, Boeing, Wendy's, and a million other examples that I can't think of right now. Now, the benefits of basing it on a person, the name on a person, is that people have evolved to trust people, voices, faces, and so forth. But the downsides of this is that on one hand, people will want to talk to you. So if your name is on the door, then any customer who walks in is going to want to talk to that person whose name is on the door. And also, this might be a little bit of a down the line problem, is that if you eventually want to sell the business, it may be a little bit more difficult if it has your name on the door. And a few more naming strategies are that you can use location, such as California plumbers or San Diego windshield wipers. And even if you're not based there, you can choose a location that communicates the message or the feeling that you're going for. You could also go with features. So if you have a massage parlor, or if you sell shampoo or soap or face cream or something, you could name your brand Smooth and Silky or Glowing and Soft or something like that. You could also use a foreign word. Now, this one is a little bit trickier and riskier because you do want it to be spellable and findable, but it could be catchier and funner to say, which might make it slightly more viral, you could say. Now, there are also some great name generators online. They've actually existed for a while, and I will list many of them on the screen right now. Now, these websites, you just put in a few words. You can put in the founder's name, what product you sell, and other words like that. And these algorithms or these websites, they mash all of these words together. Actually, they do a lot of the things that we've talked about so far, and they just spit out a ton of name ideas, which could also be really useful. And the best way to name your business, as always, is to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. It does help a lot. And definitely comment below if you have any ideas that you want me to talk about in future videos. Now, there are no hard and fast rules when it comes to naming your YouTube channel, business, product, offer, or whatever, but it can make at least a bit of difference, and in some cases, a lot of difference. There are exceptions and examples to every suggestion that we talked about today, but the most important thing to keep in mind is that having clients, customers, traction, description, a quality product, and all of that is much more important than any name. For more help generating leads, building your list, and more, then definitely grab my free guide below for 20 ways to generate more leads and sales from your funnel. Well, that wraps us up for today. Thanks everyone for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one.